Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Thing Is podcast. My name is Elsie, and this is the podcast where we discuss the fears, follies, and formidable foes of the current progressive movement, specifically during the rise of global fascism. Today, I am elated to welcome our guest, Janice. I guess I should be calling you Doctor. Just
I'm
because,
always like, I always forget about that, and people ask me, and I'm like,
yeah.
when it's like, it depends on the audience. I'm like,
Okay.
usually if I'm the only Black person I'm like, no, call me
Right.
Dr. Janice.
Right. Okay. So I don't, how do you want to be addressed? Like,
Janice.
okay,
Janice is
like
perfect.
I never call you doctor and now I feel terrible. I just realized it.
No, Janice is perfect.
Okay. So we've got Janice here with us. Would you like to introduce yourself? What part of your biography would you like everybody to know about today?
Oh, that's a great question. I would love to introduce myself. So I'm somebody that is for the collective liberation of Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And my work centers around figuring out how Black people and other marginalized folks can have better experiences in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a background in organizational psychology. So a lot of my focus has been around, barriers in the workplace and what prevents employees from thriving and having the most positive workplace experiences. And my first love is writing, and so I get to do a lot of writing that is centered around topics of the workplace. So that is just a little bit about me.
Yes. I mean, I feel like there's so many other wonderful things that we could say about you, but I will leave those out and we'll definitely have a very formal, fancy written biography that people can
Yeah, I
read to
love
go
that.
along with
Thank you.
this. Yes. So, today, to get right to it, as we have discussed, my main question for you to get started, and we'll go from there. What, by your judgment, in your experience, what has been the most difficult challenge for you as a thought leader, as a professional leader in general, in your personal life, trying to continue your work in DEI at this point in history with so many challenges against what you were doing?
That is such a great question and something that I thought about. I've been thinking about this week
Hmm.
because I have a friend who told me that there's a lot of other Black women who do DEI or DEI adjacent work whose businesses are thriving. They're getting seven-figure contracts and six-figure contracts and all of these things. And I'm
Hmm.
not getting that. Work has considerably slowed for me.
Yeah.
And there was a moment this week where I actually felt I'm not a competitive person at all. I'm very like supportive of what everyone is doing. And I
Hmm.
don't think it was that I felt envy, but I think I felt just like dejected because
Sure.
I know that the people that are still able to get business are, and this is no, I hope this doesn't come off as like shady and not trying to be shady, but they're people that are comfortable sort of, I want to say centering whiteness in a way
Yes.
that it makes folks comfortable enough to hire them to bring
Sure.
them in because the New York Times did an article about how a lot of DEI practitioners have shifted away from racial equity and
Yeah.
more contentious topics to
Yeah.
focus on things like psychological safety and this and that. And I'm not, this isn't like an interrogation of the Black women who've decided to focus on that because I
Right.
know. Kina always says something that I love. She says, I don't uh,
No.
critique
That's
Black
my next
people.
person up after you.
Yes, so she's,
Yeah.
oh, that'll be nice. So she says, I don't critique Black folks in an anti-Black world. And I
Yes.
love that she says that. So I don't, this isn't an interrogation because I know we all have to do what we have to do to survive and to live
Yeah.
in a country, in a world where things are expensive. But me personally, at this point in my life, I don't think I can center whiteness in a way that I know will help me get business. And so
Sure.
it's been a struggle where I'm a new parent. And everything is expensive here. So it's
Yeah.
just like, I struggle with that. And I'm just like, should I, and the friend that I was speaking with was like, kind of just like, get your money, do what you need to do to get your money. And I love her for saying that, but I'm also like, I don't want to compromise myself. And I
Right.
don't compromise my values and come into a company and say things that I know are not going to move the needle just so I can get money. And so that's what I've been struggling with. If I'm being really honest and candid, that's been a struggle because business has slowed. I left a six-figure teaching job because I experienced so much racism and
Yeah.
exclusion in that environment. Being the only Black woman in the management department, I was like, I can't deal with this. And I left.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But there are moments where I'm like, should I have left? Because
Sure.
excuse me, my health insurance was bomb,
Yeah.
right? And now as
And
a
there's that pension. I've worked academia
exactly.
too, so you're like,
Yeah, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I was
yeah,
making good money where
right,
whatever I made consulting and in my business was just like something I could use to pay off my student loans, you know?
right,
So
right.
I struggle with that's something that that is the thing that I'm struggling with a lot right now.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I anticipated that. I don't know how well, okay. I won't judge it. I hope and I anticipate that you sharing this is going to be encouraging to like I'm going to say like the rest of us. Like you so many people look up to you, which I'm sure you know and like may not totally be comfortable with, and there's space to discuss that. Parasocial relationships are real, right? Like the pedestals that people put us on are real. It's not always helpful, but nevertheless, there's been so many times like, and you don't know this, so I'm gonna say and just leave it out there, but I toy with it all the time of like, I should just stop writing. Like, I'm exhausted, and I'm such a confident person, and I'm sure some people have experienced my confidence like as conceit. Also, for a different podcast, right? There's a whole level of like misogynoir that involves. So I know that something has to be going on with me mentally when I start being like, what is the point? Do you know what I mean? Like nihilism or nihilism, however people want to pronounce it, is a patently white mindset. Like from
Oh,
my
tell me
standpoint.
more about that. And I'm curious, and you can answer this later if you
Yeah,
consider yourself an Afro pessimist. I'm
I
just
do not.
okay.
I do not. And I've been following that. I don't know how much you and I, we talk about a lot. We haven't talked about that yet.
Mhm.
I know that's a big thing. Kina hasn't decided what she does and doesn't want to talk about yet. And you sometimes we decide and then it goes off on another rail, and that's also okay. But I put it in her lap to discuss Afro pessimism because it needles both of us, like it gets under my skin. I don't think that it's appropriate. I consider myself an Afro realist. There's a
Mhm.
difference between knowing what's happening and being honest about the terrible impact that it's having and resigning yourself to that being the only outcome that can result from it. So, like,
Mhm.
I see Afro pessimism as a type of adjacent nihilism, and I hate nihilism. Like,
Mhm.
it does nothing for anybody. But
Yeah.
saying all that to say, I'm starting to struggle with it because even when you don't believe in it, like
Mhm.
other things in colonialism, when you're surrounded in it, it's very difficult not to start absorbing it, even if you're absorbing it out of disdain. So
Mhm.
you were one of those people who it's like every time I get that pink elephant newspaper, I'm like, I need to write. Like it's just like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
kind of
your
drives
writing
it
is
home.
so brilliant and important and needed. And yeah, I have to send you actually, a friend just sent me a Black centered publication that actually pays really well. So after this, I'm gonna
Please
slide you
send
there
it to me.
because I'm gonna pitch them as well. But I was excited to see that.
Yeah, no, it's you, Kelly Glass. There's like Dr. Blackstock, it's like there's a number of people where I'm very quiet, I'm kind of in the shadows. I mean, not so much very quiet with you. We do talk, but in the sense of this isn't something we explicitly discuss.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that in a strange way, like in a roundabout way, you being able to be authentic with how challenging even this is for you, that it gives the rest of us resolve. Because I really feel like it's like a level of uselessness, and not me. I don't feel useless. We're not there, thank God. I know some people are, but I do
Mhm.
feel like what I am doing is useless. And
Mhm.
I don't remember, this is like the 20th year of my career, and I don't ever remember getting up in the morning and being like, I'm doing this for nothing. Like until now, it's a huge struggle. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that's relatable to anything that you're talking about, or, trying to
Yeah, and I
reconcile that
actually
with.
just finished. I tried to read Afro Pessimism a few years ago, and I just
Hmm.
couldn't get into it because I consider myself very optimistic and
Yeah.
eternal optimist. But maybe 3 or 4 years later now, I think I got it in 2021, and I was like, it's not resonating with me. But
Hmm.
then I got the audiobook, and every night when I put my baby to sleep, I listened to it.
Okay.
And it was so good. And I love audiobooks that are read in the voice of the
Oh, the
author.
author. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he
It's a
has
big
such
difference.
a commanding voice. And I
Mm,
was like, this is so good. So I actually went on YouTube and I found a bunch of interviews that he did because I was like sad when the book ended. It was a long book, but I was like, I don't, I think about Angela Davis has this quote, I believe it's from I'm forgetting the name of the book, but she has a quote where she says, we have no choice but to have hope. Yeah,
yes.
something along those
Yeah.
lines. And freedom is a constant struggle. I think that's where she wrote
Yeah,
that.
that's it. It's in her
I
biography, I thought. Yeah.
yeah, and so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
carry that with me, and I'm like, I think about all the things that people, and I know that now that we're like 10, 15 years removed from Barack Obama's presidency, we see that he was not the perfect like black president that we thought he was. But just from like a very observational standpoint, him being able to ascend to the level of president, like so many of us thought that that was not possible. And
Correct.
so I think that, I'm sorry,
I said, yeah, I'm agreeing. I'm saying, yeah, we really didn't. I
we
have
like,
distinct memories as an adult, like
yeah,
crying because
yeah,
it was a moment of mental shift for me because I was like, this was real. Like
yeah,
and now I don't want to get emotional, but it's like
yeah,
you felt the push of every ancestor's, like all of
yeah,
their work and all of their effort. You know what I mean? And I'm talking like from Ida B. Wells
yeah,
before
yeah,
that. We're talking about when trying to vote during
yeah.
Reconstruction was going to get you lynched. How about that?
Exactly.
How about
So the
that?
fact that
So
someone like him, so I think about that because I was expecting to read the Afro Pessimism book, and I expected Wilderson, I believe, or Wilkerson is his last name. I expected him to like have like a blueprint of like, okay, if you are an Afro pessimist, like, but there wasn't any sort of
no.
it wasn't like this it was like this is what it
Yeah.
is. And I left feeling almost like, damn, like
Yeah.
reading it in 2025. And so I say all that to say I feel like I ascribe to Afro pessimism in some degrees. Like you said, I feel like I've become more of a realist where I
Yeah.
think that I believe 100% in like what Derek Bell said about the permanence of racism. I think that
Yeah.
as long as we are living on this earth, I don't think racism will ever be eradicated, if I'm being honest. But I do think that there's things that I can do to make people's experiences a little bit better. And I know people say like, "Oh, harm reduction."
Yeah.
Whole
Yeah.
harm reduction thing was brought up a lot during the
Yeah.
election,
Yeah.
and why people were voting for Harris, and people were saying harm reduction is not what we should be aiming for, but in the work that
It
I do,
actually is the
yeah,
primary
people's
thing. It's
experience
the only
in the
thing that's
workplace.
realistic.
Exactly. We can't all like not work, right? And so the idea is like burn it all to the ground. These corporations are problematic. They're white supremacists. They're this or that. Yes, but many of us need to work to
Right.
live. And if we are in these institutions, how can we make sure that our experience is better? I know
Right.
it's going to be like, so I guess I have one foot in and one foot um in both sort of like these ideas of where I think if we all resign to being Afro pessimists, it's almost like what's the point of even enduring, of
Well,
writing, of doing anything?
I can't reconcile. And we haven't talked about this so much. Keena and I have we Keena and I have talked about a lot of things, not the least of which. So a couple people who, like, I don't know what your experience is with like parasocial relationships, but like I have people who were like fans, thankfully only a few that I know of. And like some of them figured out, must have read through a great deal of my stuff like before I was using a different public alias, found my last name and found my family in a number of like civil rights history books.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
So
don't know
like,
about, well, yeah, if you feel
yeah,
comfortable.
we can talk about that later. Like when we're
Yeah,
not recording, I'll send
yeah,
you the book.
yeah. Yeah.
But I come I both sides of my family, like there are at least two HBCUs, two that I'm thinking of primarily where I can go and like in the honors hall, like my people are in the wall. I feel a significant level of like resentment to the idea that if they persisted through as much as they went through, which nobody's ever going to be able to convince me that what they went through at any various point in history is easier than I'm what, like, there's no way. And frankly, like, you might get a fight out of me if you try to convince
Mhm,
me of that, right? Nobody's
mhm,
ever going to convince me of that, number one. So the idea that even whatever like modicum of additional comforts that I have, which it's way more than that,
mhm,
but that they worked for me to have, that I'm just gonna throw that away because I can't be bothered and now I'm too tired. Like I that 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 pushes a place in me that makes me really upset. So that's
mhm,
why I can't align myself with Afro pessimism. It's
mhm,
something about the resignation that leads itself to not even to maintenance. And I think that's what bothers me. I
mhm,
can, like I said, I consider myself an Afro realist, and so there's overlap. We can make a Venn diagram of like the places. I don't disagree with the observations of Afro pessimism. I disagree with the resulting, like the conclusion of Afro pessimism, for like lack of a better way of
mhm,
looking at it. And so I'm really curious how that hits with you because you already started talking about it. I think you are one of the most, I mean, I don't live with you. None of us know how we are at home necessarily, but among my friend group, my colleague group who I look up to, you are by far one of the most optimistic
oh,
people. And I would say like
mhm,
it's you and it's Kina. Like you all are my optimists. And it's we talked about this too. You can actually, I'm gonna let you go into this. When you sent me back that voice memo a couple weeks
mhm,
ago, and you were like, "I love that you said you're existing out of spite." So, like, how do you, how do these things combine
yeah,
for you, right? In terms of like
yeah.
how we persist.
Yeah, I actually think it's funny because given that I do the work that I do, I think people expect me to almost like see the negative in everything, or see
Really?
race
Is this
card
white
all the
people are
time.
expecting this, or
I think everybody, I
like,
think my friends,
really?
it's funny because I went to a wedding last year
Hmm.
and I don't like to give my social media out at all
Yeah,
because I just don't. So I
yeah.
used to get facials and even the woman who did my facials was like, "Oh, tag me on," and I was like, "I'm
No
outside
thanks.
of security reasons, I just don't want her
Right.
to like see me on social media and then be like, "Oh, you're like a like I just don't want to I
Yeah.
just don't want to if I'm not choosing to engage in certain conversations, I think
Absolutely.
people assume like when I'm on a plane or like
Right.
I'm gonna like want to have these because of what I do. I'm like racial equity all the time. And I
Right.
actually am not. And so I went to a wedding last year and the person I was sitting next to was like, "Do you have social media?" And my other friend overheard her say that and he looked at me and he laughed because he was like, I
Do
think
you
like
ever?
people, yeah, who see even my partner is like, your social media is like, his family will see my stuff and they'll be after October 7th, I posted, I'm pro-Palestine and I
Yeah.
posted some pro-Palestine stuff. It was like September 8th, or excuse me, October 8th.
October
And
8th. Yeah, yeah.
my partner's family was like, she needs to take that down.
Ye
And I just was like, I know they look my friend. I know so many people look at my social media and they're like, she does a lot.
Almost all my immediate family is blocked from my professional.
Oh, yeah, because it's like I know that they're like
Nope.
but I'm like that's just me. So that's just
Right.
they know that that's so I think like I people are surprised by the fact that I don't like to be talking about these things in my real life all the time because I
Sure.
need time to just shut my brain off. But what helps me like I guess my coping mechanism is just like to always be optimistic.
Yeah.
And when I was experiencing what I was experiencing at the university I used to work at, where essentially like my students, they were all mostly white. They went and they complained to my manager and they were like, we're not learning in her class,
Can
right?
you
And
remind us for the audience what university you were at? I know you've written about this before.
oh yeah, so well, I'll let people. It's on my
No,
link.
you don't want to. Oh, that's fine. We'll leave
Yeah,
it
yeah.
at
I don't even like to out that. I don't even like to give them clout. But it's on my LinkedIn. Like if you put the
yes.
pieces together, it was the last full time. It wasn't Columbia because I adjunct at Columbia, but it was the last full time
That's what I
job.
was wondering about that distinction. Okay,
So I just want to make
clear.
that clear.
Yeah,
But it was a university in Connecticut,
got it.
and so they took the class away from me.
Mm,
But when they were taking the class away, my manager was like, "I don't understand why the students said that. You teach your class using the Socratic method, which is basically where I ask them to read stuff and then I pose questions to them in class about the
right,
reading." And he's like, I teach the class in the same way. I don't know why. Well, you're a 50-something-year-old white man, and I am
right.
a something-year-old black woman. It's
I
not like,
wonder
but
why.
he was so confused on why this was happening. And so in that situation, I was telling my partner, and he was like, racism. And
Yeah,
my mind didn't immediately jump to these people are, I just was like, maybe I'm not, like I was second
yeah,
guessing
yeah.
myself. I was thinking like Toni Morrison said, like all of this is a distraction. But I was
Right,
telling myself, maybe I'm not really a good teacher, maybe this,
right,
maybe
right,
that, like, and it was my husband who pointed out, like, this is racism. And
right.
so I say all that to say, like, I think my optimism has sometimes shielded me from the realities of the fact that, like, everything, race is literally wrapped in every single thing. When we
Mm,
were getting our condo appraised, I was,
mm.
it makes no sense that we got our condo appraised and the appraiser, it was like, I don't know, 30 or 40,000 less than what my partner bought it for. And I was like, that makes no
You've
sense.
seen those reports though, right? I mean, like
Yeah, yeah.
the book
And so
really. Yeah,
even like, and this was in 2020, right? And I, as somebody who's written about, who knows about this, I still did not want to believe that it was
sure.
like, and I'm like, because it's like I think the optimism is what like gives me hope, because to feel like I'm going to be dealing with this and then my children and my children's children, like
Yeah,
it's just, I can't, what is the point if it's
yeah.
all going to stay the same? So I say all that to say, I don't adopt like I think I believe in the permanence of racism, but I also
Mhm.
believe that there's an opportunity for things to get better. Do I
Sure.
think racism and anti-blackness will ever be eradicated? No, because we black people exist as like to be consumed. And if
Yeah.
there's no black people to be consumed, there is no existence, especially in Western, so I
I
don't
mean,
believe
white people exist because of blackness.
exactly.
In the
So
absence of objectifying us, they don't have an identity. And I think
exactly,
that the
exactly,
perpetuity of this is based on that, which we can probably
exactly.
have like a completely different. I'm big on Afro philosophy right now. Like, this is my place that I go to
What
intellectually.
what is Afro philosophy? Is it philosophies by Black people about our
Yeah,
existence and
it's black
okay,
centric philosophy. So it's looking
okay.
at the world in a way that centers the black experience as a means of understanding human behavior and patterns across like different cultural thoughts, but like you're analyzing everybody else's culture
Mhm.
in accordance to and up against how they treat black people. So like
Woo,
no
I
matter
love that.
yeah, so like
I
no matter what their
love
claims
that.
are, no matter what they say that they believe, do you know what I mean? Like you go,
Yeah.
okay, but how do you treat black people? And then
Yeah.
in the middle is where we find what your actual convictions are. So I'm like very
Mhm.
much this is
Interesting.
this is
Yeah.
my enclave right now intellectually that I'm sitting in.
Are there
Uh,
any authors or philosophers that you are really like into right now?
Yes, and I'm horrible with names, like really, really bad with names. For some reason, I can't get this man's name into my mind, even though I've been reading his work for like 2 months straight now. But the Kenyan philosopher who talks about the difference between colonial and like African time. which
Mhm.
you might also have like a, yeah,
It's
it's
not, is it the
fascinating.
person who wrote the book Elite Capture?
No, no, it is not the person who he like merges the he interrogates the impact of colonial thought on like Afro indigenous lifestyle. So he's looking at the transition and adaptation techniques mainly of Eastern Africans, the whole he's Kenyan,
Mhm.
the whole
Mhm.
region. And how Africans like his argument is that where most people see that Africans are losing culture, that the ways in which in East Africa they're adapting to colonialism is in and of itself still rooted in like Afro philosophy because it's like treating whiteness as an invasive force. And so this idea of
I
like
do not know who
maintaining
that is. You need to
I'm
tell
like
me because I'm so intrigued now. I don't think I've read this person's work because it's not, but someone did send me a TikTok video
I think
that
it's
sounds,
Mbuti. Don't start me to
yeah.
lying quite literally. I will I
You'll have to send it to me because
I
I'm
will send it to
so
you.
intrigued now. But
Yes.
somebody, I did watch a TikTok video about the concept of time, and she
Yes.
might have been
There's
breaking
no such thing as future.
exact, and
This is
that
what I'm
was
trying to get to.
okay. That was him. Okay, in the
Because
video, she
Afro
talked about
pessimism
that, and
is
that,
in conflict with that, right? Like you can't,
yeah.
the whole idea of Afro, and this is where I separate from it, because the idea of Afro pessimism is that there is a future that's unchangeable. But
Hmm.
this idea in Afro philosophy is that there is no future, everything is the present. And all of our identity is the past. And so for me, I can't take on a like on top of all of the other things that interfere with, my ego and my ancestry and whatever. I just I don't have it in me. I don't have it in my bones to be like because the only thing that exists of the future is your hopes. Why would I spend my energy investing it in this continuing in its worst form? I just
Hmm.
refuse to put my energy into that. And so like that is literally the boundary of my intellectual resistance right now to Afro pessimism. I don't know if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
no,
and that's why I'm saying like I'm an Afro realist, a realist in that I don't fight anything about any of the observations about what's happening now. But I
hmm.
don't believe that I believe that actually I'm going to go further than that. I truly believe, and like we've talked about this. You're getting into horoscopes and stuff. I'm a Leo, so some of this resistance is like some of this
Yeah.
resistance is ego,
Oh,
right?
so
Some of it
stubborn.
Aries.
So, and I love my partner's the Leo. I love Leos. Leos are, I love Leos.
You're an
Aries and
Aries
Leo,
or a Sag?
Aries. Mhm.
Oh yes, I
He
I
has a
live for
Sag.
Aries women.
So like,
Live for
yeah,
them.
I'm like Aries. I
And
love,
see,
I,
Joaquina is a Sag, and so
yeah,
three of us
exactly. Mhm. Yeah,
all the fire. Yeah,
yeah.
no, I just refuse. Like for me, white people and whiteness is taking up so much of my damn time, like already, and so
Mhm.
much of my energy. Why would I give you the only thing I have left, which is my hope? I'm not gonna do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I'm not
What
gonna
do
do
you think of,
so.
and this is how I feel. I've seen so many Black people I love and respect critiquing that white woman who did blackface for Halloween. I don't even know the
Yeah,
person's name.
I don't know her name
And
myself.
I'm just like, I feel like we as Black people should not even expend energy
At
because
all. If
they
we spend energy, it needs
artists,
to be mockery. Like I deeply
exactly.
believe we need to go on
Ex-
an Eddie, like an Eddie Murphy level, and like lean into Dave Chappelle. I should just put
Did
baby
you
powder on
see
and be
that
like, yeah, that's what
Drewski?
we're doing.
Did you see that Drewski skit? Exactly like that. That was hilarious
Exactly like
because
that.
it was so spot on. As
It
somebody who
was.
I lived in Louisiana for a few years, and I'm like, that is like so like Kentucky,
It
Louisiana.
is
It was
deep
spot
south.
on. So like I'm like, we invest, and that's how again, like Toni Morrison said, racism keeps us distracted because
Yes.
we're like on a hamster wheel. And the goal, it's just like, why are we
Yeah,
even
but the hamster wheel powers their entire society, which is why
exactly?
like I refuse to engage with this
And it's
more
like
than I have
she
to.
did that not because maybe she necessarily believes it. Same reason that the man who's running our country does what they
What
know
he
that
does. Right, right, right.
harvesting our energy
Yeah.
it gets
Right.
the people
It's a
going.
means to an end, and the end is something that they profit from, which includes our end. And like that's why with Afro pessimism, like, yes, I know what they're doing. Yes, I know what they want. But no, I refuse to resign myself to this being all that there can be. And also, we just simply know that that's not true. There's never been a time frame where we have not been able to succeed. And I'm not saying this from
Mhm.
like the Black, not from the,
Excellent. Yeah, 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 yeah.
like not from
Yeah,
the Black capitalist standpoint, right? Like
yeah,
not from that prosperity gospel bullshit. Like that's not what I'm talking about.
yeah,
I'm talking about emotionally thrive. Like
yeah,
one of the things that they've killed everything but our spirit. They literally cannot. Like
yeah,
they can't. And for me, what Afro pessimism signals is people being willing to like give up the ghost, for lack of a better way of putting it, culturally. And that I feel like an alarm go off, like in my body emotionally when I see people being that tired. And I'm like, please just do something else with that feeling. Make fun of these people,
yeah.
fucking
And
mock them. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
make
I think
art.
that's why I struggle with the moment we're in right now, because I do feel like there's value and utility in education for everyone, but I think that where what I see is very limited in the scope of equity work is that it's still centered and focused on educating white people.
Yeah.
I'm not, I've stopped doing that. I'm
It's
not.
like educating men. I'm tired of telling you
Yeah,
about what you're doing. Why are we having this
exactly.
conversation? Are you here to
Yeah,
change or not?
I support all the people, all the women in different cultures that are divesting from. I'm having a
Right.
conversation with one of my friends right now who's like, she doesn't know if she wants to get married or
Hmm.
have children. And
Yeah.
I told her, I said,
Uh oh.
yeah, I'm just like, I was like, I love my partner, but I told her don't. Cause I'm just like, I just let me not get into a whole
Yeah, I
thing
was like,
about.
we can cut this part out.
Yeah, but I'm like, I just, I definitely think that it's why I always wonder, like, why does our well-being and our joy have to be tied to whiteness? Everything that
Yeah.
we do, from the schools that we go to, the awards
Yeah.
that we, I'm not going to, I don't watch the Grammys. I don't watch those things anymore. I don't
Yeah.
care. We don't
Yeah.
need white validation. Even, somebody I'm connected with posted about how she was disappointed she didn't make any of the bestseller lists. And
Mm.
I said to a friend, because I didn't want to
I
invalidate.
mean, those are like not really a real reflection of what's best selling, but like
Exactly. And
you
I'm
know
like,
that and
but
I know that.
and I was like, her feelings are valid. I don't want
Right.
to invalidate
Right.
her feelings at all,
Right.
because I know that there's probably ways in my life that I chase white metrics of success, you
Sure.
know. So it's just like we've all done, but I just am like, I don't care. I knew that a book called Decentering Whiteness in the Workplace that literally came out 2 weeks after October 7th is
Right.
not gonna get, like, I already knew, excuse me, I already knew
Yeah.
like what it was when I wrote the book and when the book came out. But I'm happy that I put out a body of work that I'm proud of. I don't want
Sure.
to do anything that at this point in my life I would look back at and be like, I'm not proud that I did that, even though I felt like it was a farce or it wasn't
Right.
important, where I was centering whiteness because I needed a check. And
Yeah.
that's probably why I'm in the position that I'm in now. And some people are getting contracts left and right, and they're getting seven figure and this and that. That's definitely why. But I feel like I can sleep at night,
Yeah.
and maybe I wouldn't be able to really look at myself in the mirror knowing that I gave in because
Sure.
of I wanted money.
Yeah. I mean, once you sacrifice your self-worth as a black person, as a femme person, and give it up, you have
Hmm.
to take on whiteness. And the thing
Hmm.
about whiteness is horrible. It's horrible for white
Yeah.
people. They hate it.
Yeah.
You know why? If they loved it, they wouldn't be treating the whole rest of the planet the way that they are now. Nobody
Exactly.
who's happy with themselves acts like this, period. Right. And like, it's just like
Yeah.
we can look individually in relationships, one couple, one family, one whatever at a time. We can look in
Hmm.
cohorts, we can look in communities. One of the things I hope nobody, I'm thinking about this right now. I know Kita's gonna be watching this, like, shut up, but like she and I, we need to have disappearing messages because we have so much foolishness
Yeah.
in our chat. But one
Yeah.
of the things that we talked about when because we all have our moments of despondency, right? And I feel like that's something I can talk to you about with you. Although you and I, whenever you have friends with kids, it's like our talking's like, wow, has it been 3 months? And it has.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Like it's
Yeah.
all love though, right?
Yeah.
McKean and I, she had sent me something and she was very she like her she was very frustrated and she deserved to be frustrated. And I
Mhm.
sent her back because she was like, why, like, basically, why am I striving with these white people? Like, collective, right? Like, not the individual ones that we know are okay and the world would be better if they were all like that or whatever, like, just as a group. And I sent her back. I said, I don't know if this makes you feel better, but they hate each other. like,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
was like, they hate each other. And I wish that as Black people, we would sit down and have conversations about how, now this is gonna get into a place that's like, I don't know, it's arguable, but I do want to put it out there because again, this is why I'm like Afro philosophy. All of us need to just sit and question everything from a Black standpoint. Period. Everything from a
Mhm.
Black standpoint. And the
Mhm.
thing that we need to question is how bad is racism when these people do this shit to each other?
Mhm.
Just let the idea sit. I know the beginning of it is upsetting. I understand, and it is upsetting. But
Mhm.
truly, like in the spirit of relativity,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. In
I
the
think
spirit of
because we
relative.
spend so much time being the target of their bullshit that we really, and like my husband is white.
Mhm.
He is, for reasons that belong in a completely different podcast, not the first white person I've dated.
Mhm.
I'm about 50-50. I'm okay with that. It's been about 50% Black people, 50%
Yeah.
not Black people. I feel like that's
Yeah.
good for me. United Nations or
Yeah.
whatever. So, but like the detailed view. And you went to a school that was primarily white, yes, at some point?
Yeah, all
Yeah.
of the schools, until I was 16.
Okay, yeah, so formative years, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I was in private school, so my private school was easily 45% kids of color, but then when we moved, like, much deeper into the suburbs during middle school and high school, it was
Mhm.
all white, super
Mhm.
white. So, like, my first 8 years were in LA and it was a private school, but it was nearly 50%, Black and
Yeah.
whatever else. But then later it was not. Those of us who have that perspective and who had the benefit of still being shielded, I say this because my parents were incredibly intentional about making sure that our central socialization was Black. And
Mhm.
when I say intentional, I mean like my parents would be like, you need to know how to operate in the world and be who you are without being worried about who they think you are. Like this is the stuff I was told directly growing up, whole entire time. I could write a book about the things that they, so it was with intention, right? Not a benefit everybody has. But like these people are terrible to each other. Like you couldn't pay me to be like raised in a white family. They're
Yeah.
all,
Yeah. Their
you
sense
know,
of, like, they don't have any sort of sense of community.
they
It's
don't have
like
any. I struggle to think of any group of white people, like, as a collective, who are themselves part of, like, a culture or an ethnic group that is white, have a sense of community. They are so competitive. They are
Mhm.
so cutthroat, like, with their own siblings, parent to parent, just till the day they die, looking for a way to one up each other, looking for a way to exclude each other, looking for a way to profit off of somebody that you're supposed to be sharing intimacy with. Like it's just so, from a Black standpoint, it is one of the
Yeah.
weirdest things I've
Yeah.
ever seen in my life. And so I want to introduce this intellectual concept of like how racist are these people when they hate each other? Like truly, I just want to know what would happen to our movements if we flipped that on its head and
Mhm.
started looking at them like that, right? Because I think a lot of the problem and a lot of the despondency that we feel is that we are comparing how they're treating us to how we treat each other. And we should not do that. They don't
Yeah.
treat,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I hate when people, I'm like, I'm not measuring myself based on, like, because I see that a lot where people are like, white people would never do this.
You're
Why
right.
are
They
we
do so much worse. Do you know
right?
anybody?
I'm like, why are we judging ourselves based on a white measuring stick? I don't aspire to do
Goodness.
or be what white people are, or what they do. So it's weird when we're like, white people would never do this to each other. Why are we? It's like,
They
okay.
do it to each other. That's where you got
Yeah,
it from. I
exactly. And it's interesting
take my
because,
offense
like,
from
I
you.
wish more people, it's baffling that more people don't see that there's no safety in whiteness.
Right.
But I was watching a video. I'm like obsessed with YouTube. I'm always watching videos about random stuff. And somebody I follow was talking about Cash Patel and
Hmm.
the Swami and how they got their like wake up call because
Yes.
it's like they have
Did
been,
they? That happened? I missed it.
yeah, because I guess we're getting this onslaught of like a lot of xenophobia and
Okay.
racism and
Yeah.
anti-Indian sentiment. And it's like, what did you expect? You thought that, and even just looking at
Benefits of patriarchy. They were being
it,
shielded by eyeballs.
exactly,
I don't know
even
what else.
looking at like how the right wing folks have been imploding.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been following. I've been like
I,
following the Tucker Carlson, Nick
yeah.
Fuentes, all of this stuff. And it's interesting
Does he
because
know
it's
what his
like,
last name is? Like
right. And
the
like you
level of
are
confusion that's
right, you
required
are a
here.
white Mexican. Not only that, like I just thought it was fascinating, like thinking about like what happened with Dr. Claudine Gay and how she was ousted from,
Yes.
and one of the main people that was doing that was Bill Ackman, who is a Jewish,
Yes. Of
who
course.
thought that
But I mean,
like
so is Stephen Miller, whoever he is.
exactly. So it's like all of this, like to me, like, oh, DEI, do you think that these white folks care about you as a Jewish person or you as a
Not at
like
all. They don't even care about themselves or each other.
ex-
Like there's
the
zero
faster
concept of loyalty
exactly.
whatsoever.
The
None.
faster we realize that we all have the same enemy, the better
Right.
off we will be. But there's so many people, even these young folks, these young white people think that whiteness is going to protect them and save them. And it's almost like a poison that you drink to me, like whiteness is like a poison that you drink that affects your body, but really slowly. So you
Yes.
think that like the
It's their
poison
cultural ivermectin. They're like, I don't want DI is literally the COVID vaccine.
that's
And they're
such
like,
a
you
great
side effects. And let me take hormone
such a
tranquilizer.
great,
Like,
this
what
is
are
their
you doing?
cultural ivermectin. That is such a great, they think
It's
that
what
like
it is
helping them and
though.
it's slowly like disintegrating parts of
Yeah.
their body. But because it doesn't happen immediately,
Right.
they're like, oh, I'm good. Like we're good. So it's just, it's so interesting to see. And I just, I'm like, we can't save them all. And I don't know. I'm not of the I'm not of the mindset of like I'm thinking like some people are like we have to try to change those people. Certain people, I don't know. I think I'm at the point where I don't
Why are
invest.
we trying to change people who they don't even want to change? That is a fool's
Exactly.
errand. I
Exactly.
what they're seriously
Exactly.
saying.
So it's like, but it's like, how do you, I don't know. I was talking with someone and they were like, but are you going to give up? Because I was saying, I live in a blue state and I was just saying I would never, the
You're
conversation
still
came
in
up.
New York, right?
And I said I would never move. I've lived in I was raised in red states. So I was like, I lived
Right.
in, before I moved to New York, I lived in Louisiana.
Right.
So I was in the deep South. So I
Yeah.
know what that's like. I've spent a lot of time in Virginia. So like I
Mhm.
know what these places are like. And I was like, I don't. And this person was like, oh, you could do DEI work. Your work is actually more needed over there. That's what they said. They were like, you need to be in these places like Georgia and Texas and this and that. And I was just like, I
No,
mean, I don't know if I want to save people who want to be saved.
absolutely.
If
And like the
you
idolization of politeness in place of
yeah,
actual progress among liberal spaces, to
yeah,
me, makes them less tolerable sometimes
yeah,
than
yeah,
being in those other environments, to be perfectly honest. Because
exactly.
not only are you mistreating me, but now you finna lie to me about it. Like,
Yeah,
we're gonna do
exactly. And I guess that could be an
it's
argument for why people say the South is better because the racism is more like
yeah, it's forthright.
upfront and in your
Yeah.
face versus like I lived in Minnesota for some years and it's like
Ooh.
the Minnesota nice, but the
Yeah.
racism that I experienced there was to me worse than being in the South.
Well,
Because
because they'll gaslight you too, like
yeah,
while
it's like,
they are
oh,
doing
Minnesota
it.
nice. And it's like, oh, we don't want to live. When I was 16, I didn't know anything about like racism of the home and all of that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we were trying to sell our home and we ended up foreclosing on it. It was a beautiful house, but we
Mm.
were the only black people in the neighborhood, and the realtor told my parents that like, oh wait, I can't sell the house. The realtor didn't know like we have our family photos. Why like and this was like
Yeah,
20 years 25 years ago, so I guess
yeah,
people
yeah.
didn't think about the fact that having a black home is not going to get you to be able to sell a home. But like,
So
the amount of racism that I experienced in Minnesota was just like so jarring that I told myself I want to go to the most progressive. because I don't know. I know you're a Cali girl. I'm not a fan
I
of California. I
Nobody
just,
is unless they are from there, and we're okay with that because we don't want any more people. So like this works out
yeah,
for
so you're like,
everybody.
yeah, there's not enough Black people there for my liking. Like, it's diverse,
Really?
but yeah,
I mean,
I
I feel
just
like
feel
in the cities, by the numbers, that's not true. There's tons of
well,
Black people.
well,
It's just that
I
we
will
have so
say,
many more other people also.
yeah, my goal, I've never been, I need to go to Oakland. That is like on my
You've
list.
never been to Oakland?
I've never, and with all the history of Oakland, I
Yeah,
want to
you
go.
should go.
I was just in a wedding in San Francisco, so I was like, I need to go
No,
to
there's
Oakland.
not a lot of Black people in San Francisco.
Yeah,
No.
it just was
But there's
not.
a ton of Black people in LA. The thing about Black Californians is we mind our own damn business, and I mean that like in the deepest sense. We're
Yeah,
hard to find. It's not because we're not there. There's literally like I don't remember how many million Black people, but there's like it's in the millions. It's not
yeah,
a small amount.
yeah.
But culturally, we're very exclusive. So like if you're a native Black Californian, you know all the Black people. Like I know so many people in Northern California and Southern California, everywhere, all who are
Yeah,
Black, but
yeah.
we're all natives or people who have been there for like 20 years and then like integrated. I think what people don't like is how exclusive it is. And like that I will own up to.
That's what
There
it
is
is.
a level of exclusivity, but it's protective. And like that probably shouldn't be an excuse, but it's for a reason. It makes sense. Like, yeah, we don't like being infiltrated. I don't know.
No, I think I just didn't find that LA was very everything was like, and I feel like New York is very like you could be riding the subway with a millionaire and then
Yeah.
you could have somebody who is unhoused. Like so the it's just like I like that about the city. I just feel like I interact with or I see more Black people. But anyway, I say all that to say like I feel like I just don't have the energy to be like pulling people who are kicking and screaming. I think where I
Yeah,
sense
you're not a recruiter. You're not trying to
exactly,
recruit people to the
and
club.
there's some Black people who do want to who will sit and explain things even on LinkedIn. They'll be like,
I'm not an evangelist. I don't like doing that.
I posted about exactly. I posted about Zoran Mamdani and how like his election will bring a wave of Islamophobia. And
Yep.
somebody in the comments was like, what about the fact that well, I didn't even really read it. It was just some silly response about Sharia law. And so I was just like, okay,
Shakira law. That's what I put on my Facebook page
right?
because, like,
Exactly. It's just like I don't, but there were some people trying to educate him. And I was just like, I think his name was Peter. I
no,
was like, okay, Peter. Like, I'm not gonna sit and go back and forth, but some people will. And so
yeah,
I just am not in the business of like pulling people
no.
who don't want to be, but I do know that
They
there's
don't
some
want education anyway. They want attention desperately, like in the worst of ways. And
exactly. So
I've
I'm just
started leaning into my villain era. I give them attention, but like they regret it immediately thereafter because it's like you're gonna learn a lesson one way or another.
yeah,
It's not gonna be a history lesson,
exactly.
but it is gonna be a stop messing with Black women.
Yeah, right. It's like today I got a little time, so I'm gonna, So yeah, I just I focus on those who are like on the fence,
Sure.
I'm not wasting time with people who don't want to be.
My brother says well intentioned but badly educated, and like
Hmm.
sometimes that is worthwhile. It's a
Well,
risk though because you don't know until you start realizing that you might have wasted your time. It might
yeah.
not have been
And yeah,
worthwhile,
we've
right?
all been there. I've definitely been there where I start doing work with, but I used to, coddle or center whiteness in my work because I wanted money. So like
Yeah,
when I started, I was like, okay, I won't talk about white supremacy and this and that. And then I was
right,
just like, this is not like what's gonna liberate. If my goal is liberation, these
right.
little like rinky dink, like these things that I'm doing are not gonna get us closer to where I want us to be.
Understood. Well, before we move on to the next segment, this has been wonderful. On when the last question, that we were going to do is what gives you hope, and I want to lean into, although this may not be what gives you hope, but I'm curious to know where is the middle ground or where is the future road that integrates whatever is giving you hope right now and like risk reduction, and you get to define this however you please.
So what is giving me hope right now?
Yes, what is giving you hope, and like how does that pertain to your idea of risk reduction?
Ooh. I feel like in this era of whether people want to call it rising fascism or just like the fascism that was already.
Returning fascism is probably more
Yeah, yeah,
accurate,
that's a
but
better
like,
the boomerang fascism era
yeah.
that we're in. What gives me hope is that I see more people who are organizing, who are mobilizing, who are coming together, and realizing the direness of this situation that we're in right now. I think that some of these, living under some of these other folks, I think, like a Biden, living under Biden, right? Like, I think despite our critiques of him, I almost think that like many of us were sort of lulled into like we
Yeah, it
felt
was
like,
more comfortable.
yeah,
And some of the
exactly.
people who have critiqued it have mentioned that that was a problem for progress, was being too comfortable.
Exactly. And so even though I'm
But I mean, it was
I,
comfortable because we weren't dealing with all this
exactly. So I mean, I go again, we'll go back to what Angela Davis said because
shit.
I the end of the day, like we had these were the choices that we had. And
Right.
like Angela Davis was like, vote for who would be best to organize under. And it was not
That
the
you could do a whole other podcast on that one sentence with
right. And
women
it's like
because
it
you
was
already
not the
know.
person
You already
that
know.
we are living under now.
Yeah.
So we are all suffering the consequences, right?
Right.
But I think that what gives me hope is that I think people are realizing the direness of the situation and are coming
Yeah.
together. And even in like this horrific, what we've seen with the suspension of SNAP benefits and the
Yeah.
confusion around, are they going to be paid? Are they not going to be paid?
Yeah.
So many people have been putting out mutual aid support and mutual
Yes.
aid networks. So I love to see that when I get on LinkedIn and I'm
Yeah.
not seeing people like, yes, I got a job, but people are like, hey, put your cash app so that we
Right.
can.
Right. And then it's getting fulfilled, not just that the
Yeah,
ask is happening, but the fulfillment is
exactly.
happening. Certainly.
Yeah, so like that gives me hope. People coming together in community and Black people always give me hope because we've lived through much more, and that kind of segues into a shameless promotion of my
Oh,
forthcoming book, right?
promote.
This because I talk about like people like Georgia Gilmore, who I didn't know a lot about, but she was this Black woman who organized with other women during the 50s and 60s to
Mm.
raise money for the Montgomery bus boycotts for
Yes.
people who were refusing to take the buses. She
Right.
was baking amazing. I love, I'm not a good baker, but I love baked goods. She was baking money and raising money for that. So our resistance doesn't have to be like outward and loud and all of that. But there were so many people like Fred Hampton and Ida B. Wells, who you mentioned earlier, who lived through these horrific circumstances and found a
Yeah,
way to
they
survive.
did.
And so if they made it through that, we have social media. We have like all of these
Right.
tools that they did not have. So
Right.
that gives me hope is like thinking about Black people, a future for Black people without centering white people and whiteness. And I think we're all
Right.
slowly moving toward that. So that is what gives me hope.
Wonderful.